Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our summer 2022 launch. I'm your host, Jen Landels, and I have with me my partners in crime, Mel Anastasiou and Genevieve Wynand. And we're here to guide you through this wonderful issue that we have, the summer 2022, issue 35, if you can believe it. So let me just remove this for a minute. And so first up, we are hoping that we get the Hummingbird finalists all on, and we were just waiting for one more finalist to join us. But while we do that, let me put up a slide here. And Jen, do you want to give us a read through of the shortlist for the Hummingbirds?
Absolutely, I would be honored to. I'll just say quickly that Bob Thurber, our final judge, was totally impressed with the shortlist. He described them as a fine batch of stories with a variety of themes, with boldness and energy, fun to read, full of fresh, lively prose. And you can see more of Bob's comments on our website. So the shortlist for the Hummingbird Prize for Flash Fiction this year was Alan Sinsick with The Painting and with Not What You Think. We had, there's Alan.
Can you hear me? All right.
Cadence Mandabra with Nadia versus Her Feet. Elizabeth Nash with Aria of the Birds. Aaron A. Sayers with Fairy Tale. Kelly Allen with When a Man Knows Much More Than We Ever Did. MJ Malik with The Dog I Love. Mitchell Taves with Luck. Red Charles with Unalone. And William Kaufman with Prison Break. Okay, and the winners. I'll start with the notable mentions. Was Kelly Allen with When a Man Knows Much More Than We Ever Did. E.J. Nash with Aria of the Birds and Alan Sinsick with The Painting. Our runner-up was MJ Malik with The Dog I Loved. Bob described it as a neat, clean, nostalgic delight, and it repeatedly left him smiling. And our winner, Alan Sinsick with Not What You Think. Bob described it as daring and evocative and found the piece uncomfortably absorbing. High praise. So congratulations to you all. So lovely you can be here. So I believe we're just going to read with the order that you appear on the screen. So MJ, on my screen, I think you're first. Can you give us a taste of The Dog I Loved?
Sure, that would be great. Thank you. The Dog I Loved. Our one bathroom back split was jam-packed with a strict mother, up to 7 kids, a hairy and drooly lab shepherd mutt, and when the older kids moved out, a paying board or two. If you were to enter through the front door, which you could only do if you were company and it was Christmas, you would find a room too precious to play in, a Davenport that would never feel denim against the golden brocade, heavy forest green drapes flanking a plate glass window where I thought I'd win at hide and seek. Left hidden too long in the forbidden room, I scratched at the tiny bits of glass sparkling my bare arms and gave myself a tattletale rash.
Oh, that is lovely. That is so evocative.
So wonderful. I think we're pivoting to a dog of a different sort, not to give anything away in MJ's story, but EJ, now if you could please give us a little bit of Aria of the Birds.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aria of the Birds. The day that Mark ran away from home was also the day I discovered why the blackbirds sang. My discovery was almost lost in the chaos of trying to find Mark. For a mutt from the pound, he was still an integral part of the family. When I listed my siblings, I named all 3, Anna, Jason, and Mark. Only the first 2 were human. We'd argued over his name in the beginning. Mark is a person's name, Mom said. What if I named you Fido? That was the summer that melted the soles on our sneakers, the summer when the air slipped down our throats to choke us as we slept. Anna and I wanted to play a joke on Dad by trying to fry an egg on the hood of his car, but it worked. Lunch was eggs and bacon a la Ford. I picked out the little bits of grit that ended up in the yolk.
Thank you. So wonderful. And I should say that it's our intent, if the stories are still available, to have these stories appear in an upcoming issue of Pulp Literature. So fans can stay tuned. So now to Alan. I guess you get to pick which you'd like to read first.
Well, let me read from Not What You Think.
Sounds good.
Okay, Not What You Think. This book is not what you think it is. It does not begin with you sitting in the hollow of a tree, eating crackers and scratching your elbow as you look out across the forest in the morning. Ignore that picture over there. That was a mistake. In fact, you shouldn't even be reading this sentence that talks about how you left home to live by yourself in the middle of the woods in this treehouse you carved from out the hollow of the tree, with the table and the chairs and the stairs, with the wooden bedroom, with the wooden lamp, the wooden rug, the wooden bed, and the pair of wooden shoes. You would not be doing something like that. That does not sound like you at all. Better we just end the story here. Even now, it's not too late to turn back. You could close the book here, at this word here, before the bear comes to visit. Because once the bear comes to visit, everything changes. That's it. That's just the way it goes when the bear comes to visit. You have to hide up in the branches at the top of the tree with your toast and blackberry jam and your funny papers and your pajama bottoms flapping in the breeze, while the bear, who knows better than to crack a book, he totters round the kitchen with his big paws a-clacking across the beautiful tablecloth you finished carving the night before. Now you're stuck. If you throw the bottle of jam at the bear, he's liable to get mad and come after you. If you climb down to offer the bear some jam, there's not going to be enough jam for you. But if you just sit up here in the branches waiting for something to happen, then nothing is going to happen, which might be nice for a change, right? Nothing happens. Good luck with that one. The problem with nothing happens is that it never happens that way. It's never nothing happens. Something always happens. I'll end it there and let you
Wonderful.
wonder, right? Yeah, there's more
Now,
to come.
that is going to appear in, I believe, issue 37, winter 2023. I believe, if I'm correct. Yes. But Alan, this won't be Alan's first time in pulp literature. You won, I believe, the Bumblebees for Blind Maggie.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yes. So you've got lots of Alan stories to pick from here.
and had a wonderful time last year reading and getting to meet some Canadians and others. It was a lot of fun.
And it seems very apropos that you're reading from a story about a bear when you're up at a cottage right now.
Right, yeah, in a little B&B, a little tiny wooden room with 3 floors all going straight up and little narrow staircases. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
It seems like a writer's paradise, actually.
Yeah, it is. I would say so, yeah.
And a great setting.
So thank you so much to our winners and to all of those who entered. We actually have another contest coming up pretty soon.
We do. And so writers, if you would like to throw your hat in the ring, this one is a longer contest. So this is the Raven short story contest. It's up to 2,500 words. So you can make it as short as 250 words if flash is your forte. And that opens September 1st. So sharpen your pencils now. As always, we have an early bird rate, so it's a little bit cheaper to enter the contest before the 15th of September. And you can always, the hack that we tell people is that as long as you pay that entry fee by the 15th of September, even if you don't get your story in until after that, you can still claim that early bird fee. So, all right. Well, thank you so much to all our wonderful Hummingbird finalists. Your stories are fabulous, and congratulations once again. I'm just going to remove you from the stream now, and do head over to Discord, where you can hang out backstage and chat with your adoring fans over there. And now I am going to bring our feature author on, and please welcome Rhea Rose.
Hey, Rhea.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Before we get into your story, I just want to talk a little bit about the cover. And
Yes.
Akem couldn't join us today, but I just want everybody to really appreciate this gorgeous painting. It was kind of kismet the way it kind of goes with Rhea's story. Well, it goes very well with Rhea's story because we'd had our eye on this one for a while, and suddenly we had this story about mermaids, and this is the time we could ask Akem for this, and she graciously gave it to sold us the temporary rights for it. And you can see Akem's done 3 other covers for us in the past. The first one was Sea Bus in the autumn 2016, I think. Autumn 2016. We'd had the Windseeker in spring 2017, or was that 2018? No, that was 2018. That was autumn 2017.
It's all a blur.
It was autumn 2017, spring 2018, and then summer 2020.
19.
2019. Oh, wow. See, time's gone.
It has.
But do check out Akemi Art. That's where you'll find these paintings of hers. And she also has a Patreon, I believe, where you can go and see some advance work of hers before it gets released to the public. All right. So on to our feature story, A Collection of Secrets by Rhea Rose. So Rhea has given us a story before in the past, and that was the Gamogue, which was this really cool sort of folk tale-ish story set in Newfoundland. And this one is quite different. Rhea is a long-time contributor to the Canadian science fiction fantasy scene. How long ago was your first story published, Rhea?
Oh my gosh. That's giving away a secret.
You don't have to reveal.
It was back in the 80s, that's for sure.
Anyway, she's an icon in the Canadian SFF scene. So we were really delighted to be able to get a feature story from her this time. And you've been nominated. I'm sorry, I've lost my page with the bio, so I'm winging this. But you've been nominated and won some Auroras, and
Actually, I've been nominated, but I haven't won any. Always.
Well, everybody vote for Rhea next time.
Yes, please.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Collection of Secrets?
Okay. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I just want to say that I am honored to have my story in Pulp Literature A and with an Akem cover B. So it's great to be here. A Collection of Secrets is an idea that I came up with. I was just thinking about when I was a kid, how I used to order things off the back of comic books. And half the time I would never get them. I'd be so disappointed. I don't know if my mother intercepted my letters or what, but I really wanted those sea monkeys.
Didn't we all?
Yes, I never got them. They never arrived. And then as I was thinking about that, I thought, wouldn't that be funny if I got them and they started growing and growing and growing and turned into something other than sea monkeys? And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be a great thing for a young girl to get mermaids by accident? And the story just started developing from there. I just thought, oh yeah. And many times I ordered those sea monkeys. And I thought, yeah, I could see that in a story. So that's where the idea came from.
Awesome.
Maybe I'll do one about X-ray glasses next time.
And the Charles Atlas workout.
Yes.
yes, exactly. Oh yeah.
Oh, well, can you give us a little taste of A Collection of Secrets?
Sure, I'd love to. When I turned 12 in 1967, I ordered sea monkeys from a comic book. I kept the critters in an old green jello mold I'd found stuffed with cleaning rags under the kitchen sink. I'd filled it with rusty colored tap water, water the city warned us not to drink before boiling. The creatures soon grew from thimble size to the length of my thumb. Too many, too fast. By the time I moved the mold from the kitchen to my room, they'd chewed a tiny hole through the thin plastic and it had begun to leak. I moved them quickly to a glass bowl on the dresser in the room I shared with my little sister Taryn. Over time, the sea monkeys, each a different color of the rainbow, escaped, but they didn't get far. A few leapt free and landed smack on top of the dresser, where their long purple locks caught in my hairbrush, and they dried out. Some dangled like golden strings of unraveled yarn, twisting around a dresser drawer handle. Others lay draped and dehydrated, orange and limp like carrot peels over a tube of lipstick. An old aquarium with no fish, but all set up with plenty of aquatic plants, rocks, a bubbling treasure chest, all of it costing a total of 25 cents at a garage sale, solved the plastic eating problem for a while. Still, they escaped. I'd find one or two of them hard and crispy in my old flip-flops, the toe holds chewed away, two curled up behind my sunglasses, but before they dried up, had bit perfectly round, baby finger-sized holes through the middle of each lens. Some chewed a hole through my tube of copper-tone suntan cream and drowned in the lotion. Turns out the sea monkeys I'd ordered from my Prince Valiant comic book weren't sea monkeys at all. The dehydrated, dust-sized creatures I sprinkled into the water had grown into tiny lemon yellow, lime green, raspberry red, orangey orange, and blueberry blue mermaids. I took my secret collection of survivors down to the basement bathroom, put them into the huge vintage clawfoot bathtub with its rusted white porcelain, the spotted cheetah, I called it. My shimmer of mermaids couldn't escape the high sloping sides of the tub, and they thrived. Then Mom decided to refinish the cheetah. Holding one at arm's length by its tail, Mom dangled the most exquisite dripping jewel of a mermaid. This one rivaled any treasure in a collection of lovely small things. Her skin was a glistening icy blue. Her indigo hair sparkled and flowed, long and wavy. Mom crinkled her nose as if she'd discovered a bag of doggy poop in her box of tampons. She dropped the tiny mermaid into my palm. Blue's miniature fluke bobbed, waved hello. Hallie, tropical fish in my tub? She lifted the lid on the toilet. Flush them. And I think I'll stop it there. Find out whether or not they get flushed.
Such great horror, eh? Such a sense of human time and place. Oh,
I love all those little references to the time period, to the Prince Valiant comic, and the colors, the raspberry red and the blueberry blue.
orangey orange.
And the orangey
Orangey orange.
Yeah. What was that? Was that Lucky Charms or no? That was the
I think that was Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid. Yeah,
I think it was Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Colors, yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, what are you working on now?
Well, these days I've been trying to fill the well. And so I've been going back to fairy tales and kind of rereading old fairy tales and working a little bit in the fairy tale genre. But again, kind of going back to those childhood days in the 1960s, late 60s, and kind of bringing that into play. So I'm working on a couple of horror stories.
Oh, wow.
Childhood is a great place for horror. So.
It sure is. It sure
Yeah.
is. And I've just noticed you've got an aquarium in your background there. There's no
Yes.
mermaids in there, is there?
No. But my son was an aquarium freak, and he for a while he had about 6 aquariums going all over the house, and fish would jump out, and we'd miss it, and we'd find them dried up in the carpet. Things. So that's probably where I got some of that idea from.
Oh dear.
The little fish would just leap out. So
Oh.
yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. And like I said, I'm so delighted that we have this feature story from you. So
Thank you.
Audience, make sure you get your copy so you can read the whole thing. And we have an interview with Rhea as well. So stay on with us. I want to do a prize draw.
Our entries are small. We need folks to head over to Discord and enter the door prize. Authors, viewers.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yes.
authors you can enter. Okay, I
Yes.
won't do draw yet. I'll give people some time to enter. So head over to the Discord, and the link there. If you're following along on YouTube, the link is actually in the link is in the description. Head on over to Discord, go to the Door Prize channel, and there are sequential numbers. So place your name in the following number. So if you're the 4th person to put it down, put 4 and then your name in the Door Prize channel. So
and there are moderators over there to help too. If anyone is a bit confused by the system, there's folks over there.
Yeah, there's just when you get in there, just tag an editor, and then they'll give you access if you can't get in. But let's Jen, why don't you tell everybody what the door prizes people can win are?
Let's see. The door prizes are a digital issue, a print issue, and then some coupons for the bookstore. So there's a $2 off coupon, a $5 off coupon, a $10 and a $20 off coupon. You could buy like the Rhea Rose 2-pack.
Wish it was a 6-pack.
Just keep diving into childhood. We'll get some more stories out of you.
Yeah.
All right.
That's right. And I should put up.
There's a special, is there not, for today?
There is a special. Let me add our summer launch code is Undersea.
Oh,
so if you go to our bookstore and when you check out, type Undersea, you will get 20% off everything in your order. So
no sea monkeys. We do not
see monkeys, except the ones in Rhea's story. So that's good for the novels. It's good for the coloring book and the writing guides, and of course all the back issues. And they're stacking wines too. So there's right now the summer issue is still $2 off until tomorrow, so you can get an additional 20% off on that. It's a fabulous deal. So stock up on your reading for the rest of the summer. And all right. Well, we've got a few more people. So
okay.
I'm going to do the first prize draw.
Sounds good. So this is for the digital issue?
This is, I think, for the digital copy. So I've got my polyhedral die here. And that is, we don't have 20 people yet, so I will re-roll until I get one. And it is number 1, which is Brenda Carr. So Brenda, if you're there, I know you have a subscription already. So if you want to give that to a friend, send the friend's email address to Jaya or Melissa both who are backstage in Discord, and they will make sure your friend gets that. And I'll let you. I think Melissa's tracking the prize winners. All right. So thank you, Rhea, and I'll bring up the next.
Thank you.
And we can let you go and head backstage and stay around. We often have chat after the launch.
Okay, for sure.
Informal chat in the Discord. So
I'll
thanks
do
so
that.
much.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Genevieve.
Bye. Here we go. Why are my slides not showing up? Not that one. That one. There we go.
Hey, look who it is.
Awesome.
Mel, what can you tell us about our next author?
Oh my goodness. It's my honor and great pleasure to introduce J.M. Landels, the best-selling author J.M. Landels, of this series of wonderful high fantasy novels. I've read them all more than once, even the one that's not published yet. I feel pretty lucky.
Well, you've had to read them. You're editing.
You guys couldn't have stopped me, I'll tell you.
The arm twisting is minimal.
There is no arm twisting. The adventure is just so gripping. And the magic that Jen develops is both subtle and extremely dangerous. And this latest story that adds to the adventures in Ilmar and the amazing characters and politics and the really convincing, scarily convincing battle scenes and riding scenes, because of course Jen is an expert in mounted combat and an avid horseback rider and runs a stable too. So I think you're about the only person in the world who does all those things, aren't you, Jen? Still?
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe.
and being a managing editor for a literary magazine too.
Yeah. Who knows?
It's a fairly unique niche. I've got that Venn diagram down.
Luckily for us. And Gwynen's song adds to this wonderful, wonderful tapestry of adventure and intrigue and fun that the readers comes in, because she's a character that we always were intrigued by and wanted to know her story. And nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, I want to be a wicked stepmother. That kind of an icon. But Glennon did end up as that. And I know, Jen, there was a particular reason you wrote this story, wasn't it? To do with that.
Well, yeah, it was part of it was just a comment that our amazing copy editor Amanda Bidnell made when she was copy editing the last novel, Corral. That was that she just wanted to know more about Gwanan. And I thought that was a fair point, but there was no way I could fit more about her into that novel. So I thought, well, let's just write a short story that tells her story, because she was cast in the role of wicked stepmother sort of against her will. Nobody really wants to be, as you say. And everybody has a story about how they turn out that way. So that was... Gwanan kind of asked me to write about her.
I'd love to hear some of it.
All right.
Definitely.
Let's just change our layout here. So this is Gwanan's song. It has been a colder than usual winter, and the light Barra wind that blows up the river Crona chills Gwanan Duristi's reddened nose and cheeks, bringing stinging tears to her eyes. She should have no more tears left in her. She thought she had wept them all in the 2 clear moons since her mother, the Kingfisher Queen, and her red-eyed father, the royal consort, accepted the formal offer of Chanis Brandis's hand. Her sister Kiernan, 12 years her senior, stroked her hair as Gwanan cried into her shoulder. He's a good man, Gwanan, kind and handsome. And he loves another. Kiernan nodded. And he has set her aside for the good of the nations. Do you think it was easy for him? I've seen the looks those two share across the dinner table. He was foolish to marry Alezamira, but he's taken the brave step to correct his folly. Kiernan pulled away and held her little sister at arm's length. You must be as brave as he. Did you think that because you are not mother's heir, you could marry as you please? Nas is a commoner. Mother would never approve. Be thankful you've made a match with a handsome prince, of Brandishire, no less, rather than one of our dreadful dukes. Gwanan has made the most of her time since then. The wind lessens as she descends into the shelter of Kayala's lower streets, and she pats her face dry, warming already as Nazith's workshop at the bottom of Rose Alley comes into view. Gwanan rolls over, resting her head in the hollow of Naz's shoulder. Her fingers trace the damp line of curly hair that points towards his navel, drawing patterns in the wet semen on his belly. The two of them are careful, as always, but how she wishes they didn't have to be. If for once they could remain joined. Not just for once, she amends, forever. She brings her leg across his hips and buries her face in his armpit, biting her lip to stop from crying. The smell of his sweat is intoxicating and only makes her sadder. Her tears refuse to be held back any longer. Go on in love. Naz rolls to face her and strokes hair out of her eyes. Was it as bad as all that? He smiles, kissing her nose. So she tells him. She didn't mean to. She wanted to spare him this pain and keep their last few weeks together unchanged. But of course, she is not unchanged. He runs through in swift order all the thoughts and feelings she has already experienced. Shock, protest, anger, grief, and scheming. Let us flee, he suggests, as if she hadn't thought of it. And live how? Your clients, your loom are here. Naz was the finest weaver in all of Kaile, perhaps all of Ilalantar. I have clients across the Ilmar. I can set up a loom anywhere there's a port. And your work is instantly recognizable, as am I. There's nowhere we could go and not be found. The afternoon sun coming through the high windlet of his back room is almost flat, which means the dinner hour is near and she will be missed soon. I will work forever as a farmer, he persists, or a woodcutter, or delve the mines. I don't need to be a weaver. He pulls his breeks on. But I could never force you to live that life. She gives a humorless laugh. What do I care for this comfortable life if it is without love? She wipes her face on the hem of her shift before slipping it over her head. But I cannot deprive my country of the alliance it needs. I will sail to Raran and wed this prince, and when he kisses me to seal our vows, I'll close my eyes and think of you. As she says it, her chin trembles and tears threaten again. Duty is the price I owe for the privilege I've been born to. Nas gathers her into his arms. There must be another choice. If there was, don't you think I'd take it? She has to stand on her tiptoes to kiss his beautiful mouth. But I will enjoy every last moment I can with you until then. And I will stop there. Because obviously there is another choice.
Yeah, a very perilous one. And there are things await in the world of magic and intrigue in the Elmar series.
Yeah.
What I love about this is the reminder that everybody has a story. Everyone has a story.
Everyone has a story. And actually right now, I'm writing another spin-off story from this one. So as I wrote this story, the character of Zara developed, and then I realized I had to write about her. So it could go on forever.
Worlds within
spin-off
worlds.
after spin-off.
Yeah.
But right now I want to bring on one of our assistant editors, Sierra Louie. Hi,
Hello.
Sierra. And not all of our authors could be here today, so we have our editors just talk a little bit about the pieces and read little snippets from them. So Sierra, what's the piece you're looking at?
I'm looking at the poem To Chi Hong, Love Lost and Found by Yuan Changming, and a little bit about the author. He has work in Best of Canadian Poetry, Best New Poems Online, Poetry Daily, elsewhere across 48 countries, a lot of countries. He's also received 12 Pushcart Prize nominations, and his most recent chapbook is Limerence. So check all of that out.
All right. And can you read us a little snippet of the poem?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to read the second half. And the second half is called The Softest Power Ever. Okay. What softens a human heart is neither money nor honey. Rather, it is good-natured smile of some dog playing with a cat, a bird feeding her young with her broken wings, covering them against cold rain at noon, the whispering of a zephyr blowing from nowhere, the mist flirting fitfully with the corpse at twilight, the flower trying to outlive its destiny as well, as the few words you actually meant to say to her, but somehow you forgot in the tender of last night. Very beautiful poem.
That is lovely. Thank you so much for reading that for us.
Yeah, thank you.
And yes, if you want to read the first half, then oops, did I just lose Sierra? Oh, I think she just lost her connection. Well, thank you, Sierra. And I'm going to bring our next author on now. And we have come to us from Victoria, Dustin Moon.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for having me.
So let me just, I found my document with the bio, so I'll read your bio here, which I failed to do for Rhea. But so Dustin Moon is, as I said, a local author from Vancouver Island. He's got a passion for stories told through the lens of queer characters, and his work has appeared in Mischief Media's A Story Most Queer and Freefall magazine. He lives in Victoria with his husband and his brand new puppy, Bramble. Do you have Bramble with you there?
No, she's downstairs, unfortunately, but yes, she's a handful.
Well, we've had cats make cameos, so Bramble's always welcome.
Macaroni sometimes appears behind me here, so yeah. And so, Dustin, what can you tell us about this story?
Yeah, I wrote this story last summer in the midst of the heat dome that BC experienced, and it was kind of just that was by far the worst heat I've ever, you don't realize what that feels like until you're feeling it, I think.
Absolutely.
And so even though where I was, there was no immediate dangers, so we were lucky there, it still was just like, I kept having this weird existential crisis of like, boy, is this every summer? And I'm only in my early 30s. I'm supposed to have a lot more summers. Are they supposed to be like this? So it was kind of this just thought that wouldn't stop rattling around in my head of how do you reconcile being in your early 30s and you've got so many unprecedented world events that keep propping up and sometimes overlapping. So that's where this story kind of came from, was just an intense heat, no real end in sight of it. But how do you continue to make sense of the way you live and the way you enjoy your life?
Dustin, I have to just tell you, we read thousands of submissions every year, and yours is the first, and so far almost only one that has touched on the pandemic, climate change, so beautifully and just seamlessly it didn't hit me over the head. It was elegant, and it was situated in, in this place that I recognized in Victoria. And I really do encourage writers who are interested in how to do this so well, to definitely pick up the issue and read Dustin's story and study it, because it's magnificent how you've done that. So
Yeah.
I was
Such a
thrilled
light
when I
touch.
saw it. Sorry?
Such a light touch, right?
Yes,
Like,
but you feel.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Beautifully done. Yeah. All right. Well, can we have a little taste of it?
Sure thing.
All right.
Okay. The 2046. I lingered
Oops.
late afternoon sun and stared across the hectic road at the 3 or 4 or maybe 5 boats that waited around the edge of the to-be extended breakwater, the walkway cordoned off for construction. Still in geological survey stages, nobody could answer how an extension to the breakwater was meant to stymie the increasing rise, but City Council had dismissed any media questions, and everyone else, too hot to care. The heat seeped through my dress shirt, so I went inside. M bought the place at 2046 Dallas Road in late 2013. A bargain then, though she didn't know it, but didn't transform it into a speakeasy in plain sight until the pandemic forced the last gay bar in Victoria to shutter. The owner scuttled, and desperation inspired her. She beseeched the city to rezone her property, make it a pub of sorts. The place was already built for it, designed in the early aughts as an uber-modern plaything for tasteless summer homeowners. The entire upper floor was a long, gaudy bar with a spacious sitting area in the corner and a decent, though narrow, balcony. The interior was hidden from the busy street by tilted, smoky windows that served a superlative ocean view. But if you knew Dallas Road, then you knew it was a folly fight to begin with. The city denied M's request. That picturesque stretch of shoreline drive and opulent, wide-windowed houses besmirched by a pub, much less a gay pub. The NIMBYs protested her application with gumption. M shrugged it off. We all did. The idea was only sprung to accommodate the 5 of us anyway, maybe the odd invitee. Now, of course, with health ordinances lifted, not just 1 but 2 new gay bars have grandly opened downtown. We still go to M's. She bartends, drinks with us, and at the end of each weekend, we e-transfer her a share of the liquor and upkeep costs. We are too old for the real gay bar scene. We were too old before quarantine. Benny sat in his usual spot at the short end of the bar. The oldest of our millennial gaggle, he had unofficially dubbed our bar the Society of Ancient Queers. The rest of us stuck with the 2046, though after the drinks overflowed, Benny's lexicon could be infectious. Benny was an accountant for a downtown firm. He lived in a stupidly large penthouse blocks away from his office. He was also afflicted with permanent bachelorhood. M was behind the bar, hair pinned up, Montreal Canadiens jersey belted tight around her waist with a gem-encrusted buckle. Elton John's Amarina played at elevator volume from her portable speaker. Behind her, a showcase of liquor worthy of any high-end establishment glittered on illuminated glass shelves. It was garish, but M prescribed it would have cost more to tear it down and replace it with something more reasonable. Besides, garish suited her sometimes, like her belt. My boy, M burst at the sight of me. I smiled wide. Hey. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. So good.
I don't want it to stop.
Wonderful story.
It's got such a great sense of place, like not just of Victoria, but you really, by the end of the story, you really feel like you are in the 2046. Like you can see it, you can feel it. And
I'm a bit of a sucker for stories that don't, I guess maybe I'm one of two minds. Either I like stories that globetrot immensely, or stay very tight in one spot for a very short amount of time. So, yeah.
But the way you weave place and the characters, it's so good. It's a wonderful story.
Thank you.
I'm so glad we were able to publish it.
so, what are you working on now?
I've got a few projects here and there, but the thing that I'm actively working on is a total tonal departure from my usual kind of stuff, which is this, which I kind of affectionately refer to as sad gay man fiction. I am right now working on a wacky science fiction time travel bizarre Douglas Adams-y thing that is totally different from anything I've tried before, but that therein lies the challenge. So I'm working it out, and I'm trying to make it flow kind of as well as what I'm comfortable with, while also trying out, like, you know, trying to be funny and kind of silly, but also still quietly devastating, hopefully.
Quietly devastating. I love that.
Sounds terrific.
It does. It does. I look forward to reading that someday. And is it a novel or short fiction?
I'm hoping it will. It's kind of getting away from me, but I'm really hoping it stays a short story.
Rein that sucker in. Oh, well, that's awesome. So stay on while we do another prize draw. People, you've got to get your names in here. I know there's more people watching than have put their names in for the door prize. So, but those people who got their names early are going to get the chance. So let me.
And the prizes, the prizes are transferable. So if it's an author for this issue, and you win, you can gift that prize to your friends or family, like with Brenda.
Yeah, exactly. So what's our next prize?
It is the print issue.
Okay. And that was a 9. We don't have a 9. 4. Who is 4?
Hey, Dustin.
Dustin.
Hey.
So you get another print issue.
Nice.
You'll get one anyways, an author copy. But so if you want to give it to a friend, or if you want us to mail it to somebody else entirely, we can do that. Just let us know.
Okay.
You know where to find us. All right. So thank you so much, Dustin. We will let you be on your way. Head over to the green to the launch chat. You can talk with people there, and stay around if you can after the show. We often have a little bit of chat afterwards.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And if Bramble comes up stairs,
yes, come back.
We want to meet Bramble.
All
yes.
right.
Come backstage and with Bramble at some point. We'll put you on.
Okay, I will make it work.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.
All right. Let's go to our slide. What's up next? So here's another author that couldn't be with us, but Jen, you were going to talk a little bit about this story.
Yes. So the next story in the issue is Shadow Work by Soramimi Hanarajima. And this story was shortlisted for our 2021 Raven Short Story Contest. So our Ravens for 2022 are coming up. This gives you a taste of something that was shortlisted last year. Soramimi is the author of the Neuropunk story collection, Literary Devices for Coping. And their recent work can be found in a number of publications. Soramimi's story, The Theft of Confidence, appears in Pulp Literature issue 17, and Practicing the Art of Forgetting is in issue 28. So here's just a little taste of Shadow Work. After work, we meet in the park near your office and use the late afternoon sunlight to swap shadows. The instant yours transfers over to me, I recoil at the emotional buildup she's accrued. I expected it to be bad after all these months, but this is ridiculous. Burdened with so much cruft, her mimicry of my movements is perceptibly effortful, still keeping up, but always encumbered. My shadow hasn't been this laden with residue since my college years. Those times I'd let psychological hygiene fall by the wayside during academically demanding semesters. And much as my studies back then distracted me from the gradual accumulation of affective detritus and its toll, work has kept you from fully appreciating the onus your shadow bears, until now. And that's a taste.
Can we have another paragraph?
Yes, I have another paragraph printed.
Go ahead.
Undoubtedly, it's a refreshing change for you to have my shadow, the antithesis of yours, unfettered by the dross of feelings that have run their course. And I, accustomed to always having a well-kempt shadow, become increasingly agitated by the sorry state of your shadow, soon incensed, on the verge of launching into a tirade that shames you for mistreating her. But the urge to upbraid you quickly subsides. I didn't come here to argue with you. I came here to get this taken care of.
That's lovely. I love Sora Mimi's work. We've published, as you mentioned, 2 others with stories, and he's been shortlisted many times. They are always this sort of meta play on language, which is so lovely. And yeah, what were the issues again that I should have put up the previous issues?
Yeah, so Pulp Literature issue 17, and that was The Theft of Confidence.
Right.
And Practicing the Art of Forgetting is in issue 28.
All right. So, and remember, like I said, this was shortlisted, so this one didn't win a prize, but it was one that, as editors, we liked enough to just choose for regular publication in the magazine.
And
so
that happens. We're so lucky. We're so fortunate with some of these stories that we get.
Yeah.
To have this crop to pick from.
Yeah. And that serves me as the reminder that we should say, don't forget again to enter the Raven contest. Head to pulpliterature.com contests and start writing now. Get your thoughts and ideas organized so you're ready to hit enter once the contest opens September 1st.
We're sure looking forward to reading those stories.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it really is a pleasure. All our contest stories are read twice. I also should mention that regular submissions are open for the month of August. So if you've been waiting for submissions, then now's your time to get them in. With regular submissions, 1 person will read them. With the contests, at least 2 people will read your story. So, and it is a much smaller pool to choose from. So regular submissions are fabulous because they are free. We don't charge anybody to submit to the magazine. But we do get a lot. We do get like well over 1,000 submissions a year, and that's just from very short opening periods. Whereas contests, we tend to have cap them at 300 entries. So your story will get a much better read, a much better focus, rather than depending on, if one of our first readers has just been having a bad day and doesn't like the name of your main character, it might just get passed over. Whereas with the contest, it will definitely get a full read. We're not quite that casual. If our first readers are having a bad day, they'll just say somebody else can read this. But all right, let's go back here. And next, I want to bring our next author up. And please welcome M. Denise Beaton. Denise's story, The Island, came to us in a rather roundabout way. Our good friend Cece Humphreys passed it on to us and said, I think she's the real deal. which was nice. I guess you were doing a writing course with him or something like that.
Yeah, so he was the writer in residence at the Vancouver Public Library last fall, and I did a consultation with him.
Right.
That
Well,
is high praise.
It is high praise.
Yeah, it meant a lot to me then, and it still means a lot to me now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Denise lives in Vancouver with her partner and their puppy. Do you have your puppy around?
No, he's at the sitters. We have a wedding right after this, so unfortunately he's at the sitters, but he's very cute.
Aw.
Next time we have to coordinate schedules with the puppies. I mean, I'm just saying.
We do, yeah. And so she's also a PhD student in population public health and has an MA in gerontology, which is becoming more and more relevant as our population ages, I think. And you write short stories on your lunch break between your work on public policy.
Mm-hmm.
And you also write academic manuscripts, but this is your first fiction. That's wonderful. We're always happy to be somebody's first venue for fiction. It's nice to say we got them first. So tell us a little bit about the island.
Sure. So I first started writing this in January 2020. I previously had only ever written academically. I love to write, but I really thought this was just something that I do for myself on my own time. But at that time, I was taking a continuing education course on creative writing from SFU with Carolyn Adderson. And one of the activities that we did is she passed out newspaper clippings. And we had to read this very brief newspaper article and then create a story based on it. And so the newspaper clipping that I got was about the tourism board of Turkey designating an island off the coast of Turkey as being for women only, and that this would be a resort. Given that I've never been to Turkey, I didn't feel necessarily comfortable writing about that in any competent way. So, since I grew up in Prince Edward Island, I set the island on the Atlantic coast, and I was really interested in, what the relationships would be between the workers and the guests of the island, having worked in the hospitality industry myself. I used to be an innkeeper. But then the story quickly took a turn, and something unexpected was added, which, surprised me too. And this whole setting became sort of the background of the story.
All right, and the something that's added is quite sinister, I might add.
Yes, it is.
All right, can you give us a little bit?
Sure. The hotel was on the south side, with a meadow and the deep green forest stretching northwards, made inviting by distance. Other than the narrow swath cut through the brush and the clearing for the staff cabins, the forest was impenetrable. If you headed east along the perimeter, however, 40 minutes worth of walking granted access to a white sand beach and dunes choked with wild rose bushes. I spent my days off there with a book and some scraps smuggled from the kitchen. Mrs. Winchester feared mice, and workers were forbidden to eat outside of the staff dining room. I wrapped food in a napkin and tucked it in my chinos for later, gleaning sustenance as much from the mild rebellion as from what was crumpled in my pockets. My cabin mates teased me that I fasted on my off days, went on pilgrimages, sought enlightenment. They probably sensed the truth that I was avoiding them. At the hotel, I existed solely in the present, turning towards the needs of guests like a sunflower following the brightest star. The workers lived their off hours in the future, talking about what they were saving for. Many were taking a gap year before college or planning to work for 6 months and spending the rest of the year traveling. Some were saving for their weddings, others simply waiting to age into their trust funds. I was not enrolled in college or university. No wedding was planned. My family offered neither trust nor funds, and I could not imagine myself in a foreign country. Thoughts of the future felt like descending stairs, and missing a step. The only clear thing was I did not want to model my life after anyone I knew, and this job was the cotyledon of my independence. I ignored the rain until a heavy drop splattered against my page. I tucked my book under my shirt, hunched against the sting of rain, now falling quickly, and walked down the beach to take shelter under a rocky outcropping. I watched the sand darken and pellets of rain disappear into the surf. The waves met at a dark blue streak rippling the surface of the water. My grandmother, who swam in the ocean as a child, told me about rip currents. Calm water in choppy waves looks the safest, but is the most dangerous. My only childhood swimming had taken place in the weekly bath, soap scum from my mother and sister floating like sea foam. I made waves with my hands in the cooled water, swirling the washcloth and its maroon-tinged cork passengers in the tempest. My mother rolled her eyes when my grandmother taught me things I didn't need to know, but children don't weigh the worth of stories on scales of practicality. I loved hearing how to survive what I would not experience. Walking along the beach, I recited what I remembered. Stay calm. You cannot outswim. Conserve energy. You will need it. It moves in a circle. Let it bring you back. Soon the cloud passed and the murky beach smelled rich and earthy. A jolt of color winked in the deep current of water. Neon orange. I watched it bob until it was carried beyond my vision. The soft blur of natural colors over the last 2 months at the wellspring had lulled me. Whatever was ferried by the rip current would be deposited further down the beach. I followed the curve of the island north, soft dunes yielding to forest thick with the hum of insects. Neon orange. Drawing closer, I realized it was a large sneaker. I picked it up, startled by its weight, and a foot slid out, hitting the sand with a soft thud. And yeah, you want to see what happens next? It's in a magazine, which is pretty exciting for me.
That's a pretty cliffhangery place to stop there. That's great. And yeah, as I say, something sinister, something definitely sinister showed up there. So I just wanted to add that I appreciate you dressing to match our color theme for this broadcast. The purple of your dress exactly matches our theme. So very, very nice there. So what are you working on these days?
Yeah, so I'm working on a short story now. It's about a school teacher in 1816. So that's the year after the explosion of Krakatoa. And there was a huge amount of ash deposited into the sky. So there were, it affected weather patterns for a year. There were crops didn't grow. It rained continuously in North America and Europe. But, people didn't connect it to the volcanic explosion. They had no reference in which to understand it. So at the same time, this teacher who's living through this is also experiencing sleep paralysis. And I had an experience with sleep paralysis early on in the pandemic. It was my first ever. And so, I quickly Googled what it was. And I thought, well, how would this impact somebody's worldview, these two things, this greater event and then this more personal event, if they didn't know how to understand it? And also writing during the pandemic, I was interested in what happens to individual ambition when you're sucked into the slipstream of history.
Oh, what a great log line that is.
Are you doing all of this on your lunch breaks? You're going to put everybody else to shame.
I am, but I do have to say, I feel like, having gone through this first ever process of working with, Jennifer and Genevieve, the editors, my stories has improved so much. So yeah, I'm still puttering away on my lunch break. I'm enjoying it, but this whole process, I just want to thank you all so much because it made me realize how much better your writing is whenever it's part of the community and you're really engaged in that way.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. And It's true. When you do engage with the community, it really helps. These online events have been great. The fact that there are in-person events starting to open up again is also wonderful. So I'm going to use that as a segue to plug the Wine Country Writers Festival, which is coming up September 23rd and 24th in lovely Penticton. And we hope the fires will be out by then, because they're suffering forest fires right now. But it's going to be a fabulous weekend, beautiful venue, beautiful town, lots of wine, and lots of writing. So Jen, Mel, and I will be there taking pictures and doing blue pencils. We've got a workshop on working through writer's block. And yeah, we'll be just there enjoying hanging out with other writers. So any writers out there listening, if you are, anywhere in the driving distance of the Okanagan, consider heading up, or flying distance, head up to Penticton for the Wine Country Writers Festival at the end of September. And all right. Well, please stay on the line, Denise, while we do our next door prize. So Jen, what have we got for our next door prize?
I will jump over and see. I think it's a coupon. Scrolling. $2 off coupon in the bookstore.
Right.
Yes.
So, and again, people, get your names in for the door prizes. And we have number 6. That's Rhea.
Rhea Rose.
So Rhea, you'll get a $2 off coupon, which will be sent to you, and hopefully sent later today. And yeah, when you get that, you can apply it to, as well as your 20% discount if you use the code. Oh, and I should put our code back up. Let's spring launch code Undersea. So again, 20% off in the bookstore. Buy lots, buy print books. They're beautiful to have. They're so much more fun to read than ebooks, but ebooks are good too. So
can that be used to pre-order our upcoming novels?
It can. So you can apply that. Those are in the bookstore as well. So we have 2 novels coming up. One by Mel and one by me. And so The Extra by Mel Anastasiou is coming out very soon. And Corral, the 3rd book in my trilogy, should be coming out shortly after, I hope.
They're so good. I'm not biased. They're so good.
I'm not biased either. I love Corral.
Made much better by Jen's meticulous edits, I assure you.
And Amanda. Yes. Amanda Bidman. Yeah. Jen, right. Your edits are terrific. And now you're pre-editing in my head while I'm writing.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good.
No, it's good. It's good.
Is it?
Yeah. It's very good.
Well, thank you. It's an honor and delight to be able to have the opportunity to have a look at your work. And I really, truly, these are wonderful novels. They're cinematic. They're fantastic. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Denise, and reading from your story. It's been a pleasure getting to work with you on your work, and I hope you'll submit something else to us in the future.
I definitely will. Thank you all so much. And I just wanted to quickly say I adore the illustration that you did for the island, Mel.
Oh,
it was
like it. That means a lot.
Oh, yeah, let's bring that back up again.
Yeah, it was exactly what I had pictured in my mind. So it was really thrilling to see that communicated across mediums. And I'll be contacting you, seeing if I can buy a print. I would love to have it for my office.
Oh, terrific! Yeah, no, I'll send you the PNG. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, thank you all.
I'm glad you're
all right. Thanks, Denise. And now I want to bring on one of our editors, Melissa Gruger. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
And Melissa's here to talk about one of the one of the poets who can't be here. So, what are you going to talk about?
Yeah, I'm here to read 5 Ways of Shutting Up by Don MacDonald. When I heard the title, I was like, that sounds like the perfect thing for me to read. Dawn lives in Whitehorse, Yukon, where she's raised off the grid. She's got a degree in applied mathematics and used to know a lot about infinite series. And then her poetry has recently appeared or is forthcoming in Asimov's science fiction, The Malahat Review, and Strange Horizons. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let me remove us so you can go ahead and talk.
Excellent. All right. 5 Ways of Shutting Up. 1. Do you like our sexual diphorism? I ask. He likes the way I fit into his armpit. Inside the pit of the peach is a soft thing and bitter, a tongue out of the mouth. 2. Loose lips sink ships. Sunk ships drip drops. Dropped drips plink plunk. Plunked plings clog sinks. And I will leave the rest for in the issue. What excellent timing for my cat to show up. I was trying to get her earlier so I could be like, hey, come say hello. Everyone's going to want to see you. And she's like, nah, I got to hunt a spider.
It's so funny because like I usually think of cats as being like, reclusive and, not wanting to step in. And the puppies, they didn't make it on. But there's the kitty cat.
Puppies did not make it on. Oh, well, Macaroni is down there.
Now she loves being the center of attention. It's why her cat tree's right behind me so she can stare at me all day and judge me.
Well, thank you for taking that poem on. I would not have made it through the second stanza.
I really wanted to, it's the first one that got me. I really wanted to read the second one. As soon as I saw it, I was like, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And everybody else, do you want to read the rest? Pick up the issue?
Shout out to our poetry editors.
Yes, Dan and Emily. They do a fabulous job. Emily Osborne and Daniel Cowper are our poetry editors, and they sift through all the poems that come in, and they give us fabulous ones.
All the while being
parents
over by toddlers.
Overwhelmed by toddlers, yes.
Adorable.
And correct me if I'm wrong. So our short fiction submissions are open right now, but I believe the poetry editors accept poetry almost year round.
Yeah.
As do I in novels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else is open year round. So that includes graphic arts. So for anybody who's a comic artist out there, we love short pieces. Around 5 pages is our sweet spot. We've gone up to 22 pages, but short story comics, and Mel accepts novels year round. Sometimes it takes a while to get to them because it's sort of seasonal when what her workload is like. And cover art submissions we accept year round as well. So it's only short fiction that has these narrow windows, just because it tends to come in giant waves and then we have to read through it all. So, and we like reading it through it all, but it does take time. So yes, get your short fiction in now. Prepare for the Raven contest starting September 1st. All right. So thank you so much, Melissa, for coming and reading. It's always nice to have you on screen with us.
Absolutely.
Remember what your face looks like. When we meet like on Discord, but we don't turn video on. So everybody's just voices in the dark. And we don't.
Title.
Yeah.
Voices in the dark.
Voices in the dark, yeah. So I'm going to bring our next author on now. So Kevin Sandefur. Welcome, Kevin. And Kevin this is not his first time publishing with us. So Kevin Sandefur is the capital projects accountant for Champaign School District in Illinois. And his stories have recently appeared in the Saturday Evening Post, Gateway Review, Sunlight Press, Bethlehem Writers Roundtable. Honestly, after Saturday Evening Post, you can just stop.
Yep.
And you may have seen his story Out in the Sticks, which was the honorable mention in the 2021 Hummingbird contest. And that one appeared in our winter issue 33. And then Floaters was an honorable mention in our 2021 Raven contest, which
I love that. I love that story.
here's that reminder to get the Raven contest in, because you never know when we might like a story better than the judge does, or the judge liked it. They just had a lot to choose from. And yeah, so let's change our layout up here. And can you tell us a little bit about this story?
This actually started from a prompt. A lot of my stories do, because I still have the full-time day job. So my time is somewhat limited, and not all the time, but very often I'll see a prompt and it'll kick around in my head for a couple of weeks, and then it'll sort of manifest in something that either I didn't expect or that made perfect sense. In this case, the prompt was a single word: levity. And the way my mind works, it immediately went levity, gravity, levitation. I also had been thinking a lot at the time about the process of normalization, the tendency of humans to take the most extraordinary circumstances and just kind of roll with it and normalize it. We had an experience in the United States with a previous administration that was kind of like, whether you agreed or disagreed, was sort of an outrage du jour. And we normalized that behavior very quickly. And then, of course, the pandemic. And I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but here in the United States, instead of trying to end it, to fight it, we seem to have made a collective decision to accept it and normalize it, which is just incomprehensible to me. I mean, it just, what's going on there? So I was thinking about normalization when I wrote the story, and it kicked around in my head for a while. And then, like so many of my shorter forms, just came out pretty much of a piece, and is now what you see.
All right. Well, let's hear some.
Let me pull it up here. This is called Floaters. If you're asking me, did I know Zeke Fido? I'd have to say no, not really, except, of course, in the biblical sense, but that's probably not what you meant. The reporters all called him the man who believed he could fly, which was the title of that special they did on him. But I wasn't in it much, which is just fine by me if anybody's asking, which I guess you kind of are. You may not believe this, since hardly anybody mentions him much anymore, but for a while there, they couldn't talk about anything else. I met Zeke during the Year of the Floaters, which is obviously where he got the idea. The Institute had dedicated the very first ward to them, and Zeke and I both worked there as night shift nurses. He was very good at his job, always there to help before you called, always efficient and professional. I appreciated that. Mostly, I just thought he was drop dead gorgeous. I couldn't take my eyes off him as we moved from bed to bed, loosening each patient's restraints so they could drift up to eye level for the doctor's morning rounds. He clearly cared deeply about all of our patients. You could tell by the way he moved around them, gently easing them upwards so they wouldn't jerk at the end of their straps. Then when we'd get to the end of the room, we would wait together, standing by in case the doctors needed anything. They shepherded their interns through the ward, pretending to examine each patient. You know how they are, peering under the floating bodies like they might discover for the first time what nobody else had seen yet. namely what was holding these people up in the middle of the air. You already know they never did figure it out, not after all the tissue samples and blood draws and image scans and simple tests they were allowed to run on the living. And after a while, they gave up. They never had all that much to go on anyway, just a bunch of patients in comas who no longer felt compelled to obey gravity. My theory was that it was supposed to be the rapture, but heaven was full, so the rest had to stay here. Zeke called my idea the napture. His own theory was more elegant. He thought they were all dreaming, they were flying, and that gave them the faith they needed to float. When I asked him how that was possible, he said it wasn't, but there they were anyway, proof positive once and for all that people could fly. And there we were, still taking care of them, long after the interns stopped coming and the doctors made fewer and fewer visits and the news cycles moved on to the next big thing and the public lost interest. For a while, the bodies just kept coming. And I wondered if we'd have to open another ward since we only had 50 beds on the top floor. But they stopped once we got to 47. We never did fill those last few beds. Zeke and I would use them for cat naps or to update charts. Sometimes in the middle of the night, we'd use them for other things. Neither of us made that much noise, and besides, the floaters never seemed to mind. On those nights, when it was just the two of us, Zeke would go around and loosen all the restraints again to let the patients rise up a few feet. He said it was to prevent bed sores, but I think he really just liked the idea of them hovering, the marvel of it. When they were up off their beds like that, they bobbed up and down in our wake whenever we walked past, surfing an invisible ocean. Sometimes Zeke would open a window to air out the ward, and if there was a breeze, the patients would wave back and forth like a field of flowers. Zeke called them wave people, which he thought was more respectful than just floaters. He felt a real bond with them, and after a while, so did I. I envied their calm and their peace, their faces all relaxed, with that expression morticians always try for, but never quite get. It's probably a good place to break.
That's a lovely line.
Those stories of yours. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that image of them, waving,
Yeah.
like sunflowers. It's just
Yeah.
yeah. And it is it is that concept of normalizing, right? And you're right. We've done it here as well with the pandemic.
It seems to be a very human response,
Yeah.
Which I don't fully understand, but I appreciate, I guess.
Yeah.
Kevin, I adore your stories. Have you ever thought of putting them together in a collection?
I don't have a whole lot of them yet. This is, I was counting this actually earlier this week. I have 11 stories so far that have been accepted. And because I tend toward the shorter form, it's really only about 11 or 12,000 words so far in those 11 stories. So, yeah, I think I've got a little ways to go before I have enough for even a chapbook.
Right.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Me too.
All right. And let's just take a look at that picture again of the this lovely drawing by Mel of of the hospital beds with the chains attached, or this, and
I love that.
And yeah, I guess it was. It leaves the actual bodies of the patients to the imagination. They just drift up off the top of the page there.
It's perfect. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do another prize draw while we've got you here. And
this one's for, I believe, $5 off, a $5 off coupon for the bookstore.
$5 off coupon. All right, people, get your door prize entries in. And number 7.
Denise Beaton.
Denise.
Yes.
All right. So Denise, make sure you let Jaya know your email address, just so that she can send off that code after the launch. All right. So now I'm going to bring our next. Oh, we're going to talk about Jen. You were going to talk about Audrey and the Crow. So thank you, Kevin. I'll bring you off, and you can hang around and chat afterwards.
And thanks for that great story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We love it.
So it's too bad Cadence couldn't be here with us today, but we actually have published other stories of hers, and she's appeared on other launches, and we hope to have her back. Her fiction appears in a variety of publications. She's a graduate of the Writers Studio at SFU, the associate producer of the Truth podcast. She's a freelance editor and a taiko drummer. So her first appearance in pulp literature was issue 29, and she had 2 stories for the 2020 Hummingbird Flash Fiction Prize, and they both claimed the top spots. All of the contests are judged blind by our final judge. So I know Jen has mentioned that all of the contest entries get 2 reads by 2 different editors at least in the first round, and then when our final judge has the stories, they're blind. We read them blind too, but when one author has a few stories appear in the final list, like what happened with Alan, it's just a real credit to their writing. And so anyway, that happened with Cadence. And this story, Audrey and the Crow, won an honorable mention in the 2021 Raven Short Story Contest. So I've pulled up the file so I can read a little bit longer of a bit than I'd printed off. So here is Audrey and the Crow by Cadence Mandabura. Audrey was 7 when she met the Crow. 7, 4 fingers on one hand, 3 on the other, easier than trying to say it out loud. Play was sweeter now that school was out, and Audrey spent her first morning of freedom in the half-wild acre behind her home, despite the gravelly clouds. Last summer, Audrey had shared almost every day with Janie, her best friend since preschool. The long highway drives between their homes were easily forgotten, dissolved by morning expeditions, afternoon crafts, and campfire sleepovers. But Janie hadn't been playing with Audrey lately, drifting instead to the girls who snickered whenever Audrey couldn't get her words out in class. So this year, Audrey was alone when the sky tipped and the world drummed with rain. Closer to the trees than her house, Audrey ducked under a curtain of leaves into her willow cave, scrunching close to the trunk to stay dry. She rubbed her arms and listened. No grumbles yet, just fresh washes of rainfall smacking leaves and dirt. If it thundered, she would have to go back inside. A rustle to her left. A crow, also escaping the rain, eyed her with a flickering intelligence. Rain braided down the willow's drooping branches, doming Audrey and the Crow in the smell of leaves and damp earth. Not wanting to startle the bird, Audrey slowly twisted the hem of her skirt. The water bunched and ran down her hands, clinging to her homemade bracelets. The Crow sprayed his feathers into a ruff with a few brisk shakes. Audrey giggled. "Caw," said the Crow, his feathers settling back into ribbon-smooth lines. "Caw," Audrey repeated instinctively, then grinned wide because the sound had come out so easily. She was used to words tangling in her mouth, leaving her stuck in the agony between her thoughts and her speech.
That was lovely and was well read. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. It's a real honor to be able to read somebody else's words, and you all know as you read your own work, everybody reads something differently. So,
yeah, yes, and speaking of contests and contest winners, we have so many people. Alan has won multiple times. Kevin has had multiple mentions and runners up, and Cadence is another one of those. And when you read them blind and send them, you send them to the shortlist, we don't figure out who they are until we've actually picked them for the shortlist. And it's like, and we see these names crop up multiple times. It's like, it's a real credit to and always a pleasant surprise. It's like, oh, I recognize that person.
Well, and such a variety too. I mean, it's not the case that every writer sounds the same in every story. It's really remarkable how all of our authors and contributors have just these incredible talents across a range of stories. So
yeah, absolutely. And speaking of contest winners, I see that the winner of this year's Bumblebee, Christine Breed, is actually in Discord.
Yay!
So Christine, if you can hear us, go to the green room, follow the link to StreamYard, and join the launch. Even if you don't have a camera, you can join by audio. So if you have a mic, you can join in. If you don't want your face to be seen, that's fine too. Reclusive authors authors have the privilege of being reclusive. So, but the invitation is there if you'd like to join us. And then speaking of contest honorable mentions and winners, I'm going to bring on our next author, who is not the winner of one of our contests, but the honorable mention for the 2021 Jack White Storytellers Award. So welcome, Kaile Schilling.
Thank you.
And we didn't sound check beforehand, but it sounds like we can hear you.
Good, I'm glad.
So the Jack White Storytellers Award used to be the Surrey International Writer Contest Storytellers Award. They renamed it last year in honor of our dear friend Jack White, who passed away and who used to be one of the two judges. Now Diana Gabaldon is the final judge by herself. Death and Laughter was one of the honorable mentions last year. And Kaile is founder for the Arts for Incarcerated Youth Network, which is now the Arts for Healing and Justice Network, I believe.
That's correct, yeah.
And which is a wonderful organization which dedicated to art and storytelling as a means to change individuals and systems, which I think is just a marvelous goal. She's worked in the film industry and social justice and juvenile justice reform in LA, and currently the executive director of the Vancouver Writers Festival. She lives in Vancouver with her journalist husband, 2 kids, a young dog, an old cat, and 3 chickens. You've got backyard chickens in Vancouver. That's wonderful.
They're so lovely.
Oh, I live on a farm and I don't have chickens yet. Yet, I say.
Exactly.
So yeah, if your dog or your cat or even your chickens decide to make an on-screen appearance, we welcome that. But you're out doing an event right now, so you've actually taken time off from being at an event to pop in with us.
Absolutely. Well, I was so glad to be here. So thank you for inviting me and including me.
Oh well, can you tell us a little bit about your story, Death and Laughter?
Sure. Yeah, it's about my mother's passing. She passed away from cancer, and I found as I was sort of walking alongside her that I was just journaling a lot. That was a way to process sort of what was happening, and just sort of actually keep myself in the moment. A lot of it. So many years later, not that many, but several years later, I went back and, had this sort of long piece, and I was working it in a writers group, a memoir writers group. And then it really, once I'd workshopped it a bit, it shortened into just this piece. So.
All right. Well, we'd love to hear a little bit about it. Or I'm sorry, a little bit of it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, here we go. Death and laughter. How will we know? Know what? I reply. That she's gone, Dad answers simply. She stops breathing, I respond. I remember when I'd put my cat to sleep, the final exhale, the stopping, and the weird shudder that followed 30 seconds to a minute later as the final pockets of air were pushed out by collapsed muscles. After dinner, he goes to the office in the barn, and I sit with Mom. When I was in high school, someone said once that when you can't do anything else, you can at least share silence with a person. That sharing silence, that's enough. It was, of course, in reference to some high school angst, but it stuck with me for decades. And it comes to me again now as I sit in silence, sharing silence with my mother. Grateful for years of Quaker meetings that taught me how to carry silence, how to share silence. And I realize, in the way that is only earned through time and living, that sharing silence is deep and profound and is simply sometimes all we can do. Dayenu, as my Jewish husband would say, it is enough. My sister arrives, finally, from halfway around the world, somehow arriving the evening after the morning she left, because time travel is real if you live enough time zones away. I can't sleep. I get up once when I hear Dad struggling with Mom. She's trying to go to the bathroom and got as far as the chair. I talk to her calmly and firmly in the voice that I learned from her over years of growing up, the voice I heard her use on my own children when she'd come visit. We're going back to bed now, okay? I'm going to help you, and we're going to get you back in bed. We finally get her back in bed. Later, I hear her again and pad softly from my room to theirs. The door's open, and there I see Dad sitting up against the headboard, Mom lying crosswise on the bed. He is asleep, his head resting against his own shoulder, his legs pulled all the way up out of her way, as the soft glow of the low-hanging, oversized paper globe casts them in warmth. They're not touching. I know he's afraid any touch might hurt her. And he has pulled himself utterly out of her way, yet it looks like she's draped across his lap. Like the Pieta inverted somehow, I think, as I turn back to bed. The image burns in my heart. It is love. My mother does not drink water again. Thank you.
That was so moving. It's so matter of fact and yet so moving. I love how unsentimental you are, which makes it that much more immediate.
Thank you.
And real.
Thank you. It was, speaking of farm, as I was reading it, it reminded me, of course, my parents were living on a farm. It's funny the pieces you then carry forward.
Yeah. And, there is laughter in it. There are funny parts in it.
That's what I found. And when my sister came, we, I'd sort of sent an email out and, sort of recounting all of it. And, it was pretty emotional. And then I noticed that Dad had copied it and sent it out to his group, and he'd done a little bit of editing. And one of the things he'd done is put a sad face emoji in it. My sister and I just laughed for days because we're like, did he really just put a sad face emoji in the so there's it's I think that's very human to find the absurd and the things that bring humor when you're going through things.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we got to see that story and publish it. So, thank you so much for for submitting it to the Surrey contest and placing so that we could print it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and I know you have a busy day at your event, so we will let you go.
Wonderful.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for that lovely reading.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. All right. We are coming close to the end. We're actually doing well for time today. So Jen, it doesn't look like our Bumblebee winner is joining us on stage here. So I think it's going to be up to you.
Absolutely. It'll just, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It'll just be it's a teeny tiny story. So it'll be a teeny tiny snippet.
All right. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Christine Breed is a speech therapist for the International School of Geneva and organizes writers' workshops for teenagers and adults. Her work has been published online and in print, has won many competitions. She was nominated for the 2020 Pushcart Prize and is currently at work on her first novel. So that would be exciting to have a chance to learn about. And this story is, it's one sentence. And it's a wonderful example of what you can do in these contests and the variety of pieces that are selected as winners. So I really would encourage people when you see word counts, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be 2,500 words. You can tell a story. I adore short forms, and you can tell a story in just a page, a paragraph, a sentence. Bob Thurber, our judge, has 50-word stories. It's just remarkable. So here's a little taste of Whispers in Between My Shoulder Blades. I have a friend who says, I have morals. I don't do this or that. And then she does, like when she wears her ring in every photograph, letting it shine, letting it weigh until she takes it off for a couple of hours or doesn't. A minor detail at that point. And I have a friend who says, bear with it. It's a matter of expectations. You can still do this or that. Like the one who tells me, we stop making love and I might get a dog. Or the one who tells me, I don't want to marry my partner, but if he'll leave me for that, I'll even marry him. And another one who says, my colleague makes me blush and my husband keeps me warm. Or the one who says, we have our routine every Sunday because he likes it that way, which could make you cringe or could mean you choose to be safe. And then it goes on.
That is a very short piece, but thank you.
Yeah. Well, you buy the issue, find out.
It is a great story. It's and it is such a pleasure and a privilege to read these stories when they come into our contests. The treasures that we find.
Yes.
And then the treasures that and we give Bob Thurber the terribly difficult job of having to sort them and order them, which often I wouldn't actually want that job.
So hard to choose.
It's hard enough even just sorting the top 10.
But what you can do with words, it's just absolutely remarkable what all of our authors do with words and how they do it. It's so inspiring and lovely.
It is. It is. Right. I think, are we at our final prize draw yet? Or
we have a $10 off and a $20
Oh, we got
off.
two. Let's do one now.
Okay.
Let's do one now. All right. And number 5.
EJ Nash.
EJ. Congratulations. It seems to be all our authors that are winning, but please, everybody else, you are welcome to enter the door prize.
There are others. There are others.
So that's a $10 coupon, which we will send off to you to use as you choose in our bookstore. I'm just going to pull up this slide again, just to remind everybody of the Raven Short Story Contest. Please get your stories in. Well, don't get your stories in yet, but get them ready to get in right away. And
so actually, Jen, if you could just speak to the editorial critiques that are offered as an option for authors that are interested in getting feedback on their story. This is an incredibly economical way to get an editorial critique. I mean, this is like
actually
a deal.
Yeah, this is a
this
huge
is a deal.
And yeah, we are actually at the moment still just finishing up the last of the Hummingbird critiques. So if there are any authors out there going, I haven't got my critique yet, we are working through them. We do take our time with them. So for the mere cost of $25 extra, you can get a critique of your story, which is a fabulous deal because it's the level of critique that normally comes in at around $50 per 1,000 words. So if you've got a 2,500 word story, that would cost you usually $150 minimum to get this level of critique, and you can get it for $25 when you enter the contest. So it is a fabulous deal. And a lot of the sometimes people who've asked for critiques have been contest winners. So it's not just for the noobs out there. Don't feel like you won't benefit from it.
Well, and some of our authors who have received the critiques and done, utilized them have actually had these stories go on to be published and to win prizes.
That's
so,
true.
Just to toot our own horns a little bit here, I really would encourage folks who are interested in editorial feedback to take advantage of the critique.
Yeah. And Mel and I can attest that Jen and all our other editors have fabulous eyes.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you haven't kicked me out of the club yet, so.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to just, before we get to our last reading for the day, we saved the best till last. I just want to look at our graphic story for this issue, which is Alison Bannister's The Play's the Thing. Now it's the colors for this piece are by Tom O'Brien. However, the piece is in grayscale, so you cannot appreciate his beautiful colors. But I will read you his bio nonetheless. You can somewhat appreciate his colors, just not as much as otherwise. But Tom O'Brien's a cartoonist and illustrator who works in fantasy and nonfiction. Currently working on a long-form comic about the use and care of kitchen knives. His work can be found at TomO'BrienComics.com and in anthologies including Who is the Silhouette, Ever After, and My Kingdom for a Panel. Outside of comics, he works part-time at a kitchen supply store, hence the knives, and enjoys audiobooks, video games, and RPGs. And then Alison Bannister, you may recognize the name because she had a piece in issue 25, winter 2020, which was called Ghost Room. Very, very moving piece. Alison is a cartoonist and comics scholar with an MFA in cartoon studies. I didn't even know you could get an MFA in cartoon studies. I think I would have done that if I'd known. And a PhD in communication and rhetoric. She writes and draws comics about ghosts, magic, and dinosaurs, tending towards stories about getting lost and finding a new way home. She teaches writing and visual storytelling. And this piece, The Play's the Thing, is loosely based on her childhood amateur Shakespeare troupe and was originally published in the Shakespeare Tribute anthology, My Kingdom for a Panel. So I have only included two panels from this. The first panel, which you see there. Why won't you allow me to take a suitor? You know my rule, Bianca. I must first find a man for dearest Kate. So obviously this is Taming of the Shrew. And then a panel from the next page. Father, have you seen Kate? little shrew in a dress. So it's only going to get sillier from there. But it's a sweet little story. It's Taming of the Shrew is such a problematic play. It's got such wonderful dialogue in it. It really, the banter and the repartee in that play is fabulous, and it's so problematic. And it's just, and I've seen some wonderful adaptations of it. I have to say the one at Bard on the Beach for the 2019 season was wonderful and turned it on its head. And this short story by Allison does the same thing. It's a different way of turning it on its head. So I'll leave it to you to discover the lovely artwork and wit of Alison Bannister. And then our last reading for the day is from our founding editor and illustrator, Mel Anastasiou, from her ghost story, Pretty Lies. As most of you who are watching know, Mel's been my partner in crime for 8.5 years now. No, almost 9 years now, I guess. When we put this, and we've been friends longer than that, and I've been reading her wonderful writing longer than that. So Pretty Lies was the first thing of Mel's that I ever read. An early version of that was the first thing of hers I ever read, and I was like, wow, I love this. But I love it even more now, because back then it was a sort of a YA novel, and now it's an adult novel, and it's even better. And I'm just so pleased we are publishing it serially in the magazine. So Mel,
thanks.
What would you like to say about it?
Well, I'm hoping that it means I've evolved from YA to adult myself, in some ways anyway. I certainly love writing a story, an Orpheus story. I thought about, people seeing ghosts, which is the title of another ghost story I wrote. See people seeing ghosts. Well, if the ghosts can come into our world, then started to wonder whether we could not get into theirs. And so I get an Orpheus tale about a determined young woman who can't let go her emotionally unavailable, especially now that he has passed on, but still remains somewhere out there. And she wants to go into the ghost world and get him back. And it's set in the golden summer of 1974 on Bowen Island and throughout House Sound. And you can see the ferry boat in there that passes by the window of my house, actually. And so I wanted to put all these elements together, bring in the booze cruises from the 1930s with a ghost with her own agenda for her future to get her fella back who's in the world of the living. And we're at chapter 12 in this novel excerpt as things are getting more and more dangerous, and campers on the island and other people are starting to get into the circle of danger. Jenny saw the car, the same black car that had hit her not a half an hour or before, turn off the trunk road and through the lineup for the 10:30 ferry into the general store parking lot. She had lost sight of young Ketchup and his bag of chips, but heard the driver's wordless shout and the wallop of the Eldorado's brakes. She ran across the road and narrowly missed being hit herself by an orange pickup. Malcolm passed her, breathing hard, followed by Adrian, who apparently did care about kids after all. The driver clambered out, but there was no sign of Ketchup, the kid. Malcolm tore up to the Eldorado's driver and shoved him in the chest. Bastard, Malcolm said. I knew you were a bastard. I didn't do anything. Where's the kid? Jenny ran around the black car. She expected to see the little boy lying smashed and dead under the wheels of the car, but she found him alive, stretched out on the parking lot blacktop. I'm crying because I'm hurt, Ketchup told her. His eyes moved to Adrian at Jenny's side. No eating my chips. Ketchup's leg lay at an odd angle. But was that all? She knew better than many that more than bones could be broken on a person who had been hit by a car. Something damaged deep inside could be harder to find, and the harder to find, the more dangerous it was. Did it follow that imagined injuries could be the most dangerous of all? She grimaced. Idiotic thoughts ran through one's head at times like these. I'll stop there.
Wow, that's all we're going to get? Thank you so much, Mel. It's
thank you.
It's a great story. And I want to point out to everyone that you can read this in issue 35 and prior issues. I don't remember. Which issue did we start serializing this one in? Do you remember?
I think 32.
32. Okay. But you can also pick up Mel's wonderfully funny Stella Ryman and the Fairmount Manor Mysteries and the Labors of Mrs. Stella Ryman in our bookstore. You can use the coupon code. Oh, let me put that up on screen again. Coupons spring launch code Undersea to get 20% off. And you can also pre-order the extra using that 20% off code. We also have, I think we have a few more spots for first readers for the extra. So if you're interested in it, you'll want to get our newsletter and sign up for the extra arc. So if you go, if you sign up for the Pulp Literature newsletter, then you'll see where you can actually sign up to become a first reader for our mystery novels. And we also have the same offer for our science fiction fantasy novels. So if you'd like to be a first reader for either of those, we are always looking for insightful readers to post reviews of our works before their main releases.
Oh, I'd be so grateful.
It's
wonderful to get the feedback.
It's the thing that writers need most is reviews.
Yeah.
It's a real help. Not just to improving your books, but just to getting the word out there. And you really can't sell books without reviews these days. So anytime you read any book, give the author a review or a star. Even it doesn't even have to be a wordy review. So I'm going to bring in, we still have Rhea and Kevin in the studio. I'm not sure if Dustin's still there. I'm going to bring them on now just to do our final prize draw. And, oh, Dustin is still there. Perfect. That makes a nice 6 layout. Look at all this purple. Everybody's matching the theme of our issue today. It's like you knew what the cover of the issue was going to be or something. All right. So our last prize is, what is it, Jen?
$20 off.
$20 coupon. You can get an entire print book for that. Some of them are more. All right. And that is number 3, Misha Handman. Congratulations, Misha. And that isn't one of our authors from today, but he was one of our authors once upon a time. And I believe it was the same issue that Rhea, you were in, the one you had the Gamogan, issue 12. Yeah. And Misha was in that one too with Embers. Way back in the fall of 2016? Fall 2016.
Way back. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So remember, use that launch code before tomorrow. And those of you who've won prizes, be sure to give your email address to Jaya or to Melissa backstage. Thank you to all our wonderful, wonderful readers. You guys are just fabulous. And before we go, I haven't been reading out comments as much as I normally do. I'm just going to go through the launch chat and read through some of these comments. And Brenda Carr, one of our authors, who we will be releasing a wonderful novel from in the next little while as well, said being from Vancouver Island was a plus for me in enjoying Dustin's story. Looking forward to the rest of this read. Well done. And also, Floaters, phenomenally read. This is why I love hearing authors out loud. So it was phenomenally read. So again, your audience appreciates you, and we appreciate you. It's so wonderful to be here, at least in semi-person, in digital person, if we can't actually all be in a room lifting a glass of beer together.
Someday.
Mel and Jen, have you got any final words for our authors?
How excited I am about this issue. Such great stories in here.
Oh,
Bramble!
Let's let Bramble have the last word.
Wow.
Aw.
Yeah.
Aw, he's adorable. He's like a teddy bear.
I know, right?
How old is he?
She is 5.5 months.
Oh,
Wow.
she's going to be a big girl.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Macaroni has wandered off, so I can't bring him up.
Yeah. My cat's on the floor here.
Oh,
He's not going to get up.
No flying fish, Rhea?
No flying fish. Oh, I hated finding those dried up fish everywhere.
Well, thank you everybody for this wonderful launch. Yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you to our audience. I will let you go about your day on this beautiful afternoon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Pulp
you.
Literature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen and Jen. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.